This is not a trick question or me trying to be intellectual or something. Genuinely, how are black people supposed to celebrate the 4th of July when we still weren't free on July 4th, 1776? Just give me your thoughts, because I'm really curious.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Alante and welcome back to my channel. I know it has been a minute. It's been a long time and there might be something a little different about me. Yes, my sister locks are gone. I meant to make a video about that. I'll probably still compose one and talk about why my sister locks are now gone. But yeah, I'm just really excited to be back on YouTube, to be back making content. I will be finishing the book on Shahrazad Ali's The Black Woman's Guide to Understanding the Black Man. I couldn't think of it for a second. I am going to finish that on here, so stay tuned for that as well. But as you can tell from the caption, today I want to talk about something else, and that is why I believe Black Americans should be celebrating the 4th of July. Now, I thought about making this video before the 4th of July so I could get people, excited and on board with celebrating the 4th of July festivities, but I had life going on and then I actually enjoyed the holiday with my family. I should have also mentioned that I am very patriotic. I served in the military. My mother and father both served in the military. And patriotism runs in my veins. I am so pro-America, pro the home team. Let's go USA. And that is my bias here. So I meant to add that tidbit in here. I do have a bias because I'm an American and I'm Black. So I'm for everything pro-America. I think we're the best country. I think we're the winners. I think there's nothing better than America. I'm biased towards America. So I know it's very popular right now to hate America and think that America is the worst country in the world.
Which flag is the most offensive?
Yeah, which one is the most offensive?
Which one is this again?
That's the Iranian regime flag.
Yo, and what's this? Which one's this?
That's, do you know what that one is? Soviet Union.
Soviet Union?
Yep.
Yo.
Anybody
who's affiliated with the U.S., fuck them. I hate anybody affiliated with the U.S.
Are you affiliated with the U.S.? You're affiliated with the U.S.
You're right. I hate that I'm affiliated with the U.S.
Why?
This is freaking crazy. You see what's going on with our freaking regime, with the regime and everything? Like,
what
Trump
regime is the U.S. under?
Yo, this is a freaking dictatorship. Trump sucks mad.
Aren't you gay?
But I just don't subscribe to that idea. I think that there are things that America has in its history that were dark, that were troublesome, that were wrong. But I don't see America as this country that has nothing good going for itself. Like, I think America's amazing, and I don't think that many people would be trying to sneak into our country if it wasn't. People come to our country to get a better life, to send money back home to their family in another country. Sometimes they never leave. Like, if America was so terrible, we wouldn't have as many immigrants here as we do. And as a Black foundational American, I'm just super biased towards America. So go Trump, go USA. But I have seen it being very popular on social media, or YouTube rather, for Black people to tell other Black people why they're not celebrating the 4th of July, or that they also shouldn't be celebrating the 4th of July.
Let me be clear, I'm not celebrating the 4th of July, but I am going to take that day off. I'm not finna celebrate. What is there to celebrate? The Supreme Court striking down affirmative action? Absolutely not. But the break, The day off from America, now that I could use. So I'm going to throw some food on the grill. We're going to get in the spades. We're going to talk trash. And we're going to have a good time. And you should too.
Contrary to propagandistic belief, the 4th of July is not an American holiday for all Americans, just as much as America is not for all Americans. In fact, those two sentiments go together real bad. And even more fact, the steps taken on the road to independence are exactly why America is not for all Americans. Every chance our forefathers had to make independence equitable, they didn't. Whether that be in the actual Declaration, the Constitution that followed, Thomas Paine's common sense, Thomas Jefferson's notes on the state of Virginia, or the Black lives they played with as pawns in a white man's war. How there were glaring oversights and missteps in the theology of independence altogether. And I use the word theology because they had God wrapped all up in their rhetoric, but nowhere in their intention. Woo! Why does Spirit keep on coming in here like this? Is this the church house or is it the people's brief? Or is it both? Irregardless, American hypocrisy runs deep. It's a book you can absolutely judge by its cover because the book of what America was supposed to be that was written in 1776 would have a white man on it. 56 white men more specifically, who signed that bad boy with their John Hancock, including John Hancock. The dad jokes are running in today, but that's easy when the whole entire thing is a joke. So why do we celebrate it? Why haven't we oriented our calendars around Juneteenth? Well, that's a conundrum we hope to get to the bottom of right here, right now, today, on The People's Brief.
Tomorrow's the 4th of July, so it's just a friendly reminder to black people this ain't our goddamn holiday. Don't you be out there buying them fireworks, wearing no goddamn stars and stripes. Because while these motherfuckers was celebrating their newfound independence, our black-ass ancestors was still chained. You dig what I'm saying? Oh, but it's Independence Day. For who? For who? Last I checked, we gained our independence years later. Almost 100 years later. And still didn't really gain no independence, you dig? Nah, just promised 40 acres and a mule just for that to be given to the white slave owners. Reparations to be given to the white slave owners. What you celebrating for? Your ancestors went from chains to sharecropping, to vagrancy laws and back into the prison industrial complex, chain gangs, and also watched our towns get burned and destroyed and their families murdered. So your ancestors would be turning over in their grave, watching your black ass go out there wearing American flag attire, watching fireworks at the cookouts with these white people. Even at a cookout at your own house with your family. Celebrating what? What? Some bullshit, that's what.
Hey, stop scrolling for a sec. I got another important message. To every black person watching this video, do not, and I mean please do not, get sucked into celebrating July 4th this year, Independence Day. I know a lot of y'all are young on here, and I don't know what they got in your history books today, but we weren't taught the full truth when we were in school. We were not free July 4th, 1776. It wasn't until June 19th, 1865, also known as Juneteenth, that all slaves were free. Not even immediately following the Emancipation Proclamation, which was issued January 1st, 1863, which means it still took 2 more extra years for the last of the slaves that were here in Texas to be free. And the reason why I say free is because even that wasn't instant. Juneteenth should be our July 4th. There's no reason why it shouldn't be a national holiday at this point. So if you didn't know before, now you know. Don't allow the fireworks and the hot dogs and all that other stuff to distract you from the matter at hand. July 4th was not our Independence Day. Share this with your friends and keep this in your memory banks. I'm sorry y'all ain't being taught everything you need to learn in the classroom, but this is pure truth. July 4th is canceled.
Because in many ways, and with apologies to my dear spicy white friends, because I know that my white brothers and sisters do love a 4th of July. It is Independence Day. Everybody's barbecuing. It's a thing. I can promise you, black folks, we will take that day off. We will barbecue because we off. But black people, that nobody black I know is really excited about the 4th of July because it is what Frederick Douglass said it is. It is the celebration of slaveholders who freed themselves from having to pay taxes to the crown for their slave empire.
Hi there, it's me again during my editing hour. I just realized, when you make one of these videos, I'm so out of practice, but I missed out on so many things I wanted to say. That's why I have these little blurbs of me post filming. Anyway, Joy Reid had mentioned Frederick Douglass, And a lot of people have mentioned Frederick Douglass's speech on the 4th of July in 1852, I want to say. I have the speech right here, and it's very long. And if you guys are interested in me reading the entire thing, let me know in the comments below. But the one thing I wanted to read from it and also mention, like, this is in 1852. It's 13 years before slavery is abolished. So his views on the 4th of July and how Black people are still enslaved were current to the times, but not, for me, applicable in this day and age. But either way, I wanted to read these 2 paragraphs from it. And like I said, I will read the whole thing if you guys are interested in it. He does have things to say because, like I said, slavery was not abolished yet. So he had very strong words about his opinions on freedom as a whole for countrymen, because at this time, like I will say later in this video, Black people were not considered citizens yet. But Frederick Douglass says, "Fellow citizens, I am not wanting in respect for the fathers of this republic. The signers of the Declaration of Independence were brave men. They were great men too, great enough to give the fame to a great age. It does not often happen to a nation to raise at one time such a number of truly great men. The point from which I am compelled to view them is not, certainly, the most favorable, and yet I cannot contemplate their great deeds with less than admiration. They were statesmen, patriots, and heroes. For the good they did and the principles they contended for, I will unite with you to honor their memory. They loved their country better than their own private interests, and though this is not the highest form of human excellence, all will concede that it is a rare virtue, and that when it is exhibited, it ought to command respect. He who will intelligently lay down his life for his country is a man whom it is not in human nature to despise. Your fathers staked their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor on the cause of their country. In their admiration of liberty, they lost sight of all other interests." So, like I said, this is 13 years before slavery was abolished. So it makes sense that Frederick Douglass is not only paying respects to the forefathers, but also having negative things to say about the Declaration of Independence and how Black people are viewed and still enslaved. But in 2026, I don't know, it just doesn't apply, at least to me. But what do you think? And I want to be sure I'm being very specific here before I get deeper into the video, that I'm speaking about Black Americans, not African Americans that might have immigrated to the country. I'm talking about Black Americans whose ancestors have been in the United States for hundreds of years, who cannot really trace their heritage outside of this country, because the average Black American's ancestors have been in this country since the mid 1700s, which is longer than the ancestors of most white Americans. So for Black Americans that aren't considered African Americans, this is our country, and this is the only country we've ever known, and most likely would be the only country that we would ever live in, because the average African immigrant in the United States lived in the country for about 15 to 20 years, and that's not the history for most Black Americans. So I'm making a distinction between the two because we have two completely different lived experiences and completely different cultures. So this video, when I'm talking about Black people should be celebrating the 4th of July, I'm speaking about Black Americans specifically.
Here's why a lot of Black people have objections towards the 4th of July. So the 4th of July is a celebration of the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. But this was at a year when, by law, Black people were considered property and not people. By law, we were property and not people. So when the founding fathers who owned slaves, not all of them, but the majority of the founding fathers who owned slaves, where they were talking about life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, all men are created equal. They couldn't have been talking about black people. The Declaration of Independence was in 1776. The Emancipation Proclamation didn't come until 1863. So there's no way they could be talking about black people because we were still enslaved. We didn't have freedom. Our ancestors couldn't even celebrate the 4th of July. They were still in bondage, still in shackles. And you can kick it with the family and stuff. I mean, you know, you off work, you chilling, relaxing. But popping fireworks, talking about Happy 4th of July or Freedom Day, especially for black people, I mean, we didn't have freedom. And then another thing is, they said all men are created equal. And they couldn't have been talking about women because they said all men are created equal. They didn't say men and women. They didn't say all people. They said all men are created equal. That's why Frederick Douglass had his great speech, "What is the slave to the 4th of July?" Because we were still in bondage. We didn't have any freedom. We didn't have any humanity.
Now, I do understand the sentiment surrounding that black people were not considered citizens, or the majority of us were enslaved in 1776. And just to get to the enslaved part, in 1776, historians said that there were approximately 30,000 free black people. And so when people talk about how black people were still enslaved in 1776, I feel like they're only telling part of the story, and only the part of the story that gets people upset and angry. While there were still slaves and the majority of black people were still enslaved, there were thousands of black people in the United States in 1776 that were not. And I'll jump back to 1776 for the reasons why I believe black people should celebrate the 4th of July, but just to touch on the part that blacks weren't considered citizens until 1868. That is true. But people also fail to talk about how Brazil, which was the country that received the largest amount of Africans from the transatlantic slave trade, they didn't grant citizenship to black people. And they also have the largest black population outside of Africa. They did not grant citizenship to black people until 20 years after the United States in 1888. So does the United States have a lot of cons with them? Yes, but there's also a lot of pros, and I feel like people don't want to talk about what the United States got right, even if they had such a bad history. Like, slavery was a very common trade and very common practice back in those days. But nobody wants to talk about what came out of it and how people changed and how countries changed and changed their mind and the progression of black people. It's still, we always have to talk about how we were slaves.
I'm not sure if we should be celebrating 4th of July after we just come off a
Celebrate
strong,
everything else?
No, we just came off a strong Juneteenth, understanding what it is.
So we got to make a stand-up curve in July 4th?
We are still American.
We got to curve July 4th now?
We not American?
But see, the problem with the history...
We not
hold on,
fucking American?
Hold on, I'm going to answer the question the way I'm going to answer it. You relax. Check this out. 4th of July is the independence of America from Britain, right?
Yeah.
You American or not?
Where was you born in America?
You talking about? You ain't kick no knowledge right there. What the fuck was that? Hold on for a second.
When America got its independence from Britain, black people still slaves.
So what?
So we wasn't.
Was you a slave?
Let me ask you this: have you ever bought fireworks?
Yeah.
Or was you born free in America?
You trying to?
I'm just saying.
Educated now.
I'm educated
off
now.
that now. I'm not mad at what you're saying, but
you understand?
You saying
yeah, I respect it, but
you saying as a general whole, as a
population. The history of black people. General.
When black folks celebrate the 4th of July, it just shows how ignorant they are about American history, because the 4th of July was never about black folks. Our ancestors were still enslaved. They didn't celebrate with the Europeans. The European gained independence over Great Britain after they won the war. The black folks wasn't included in that. They were still gaining off of our backs. They were still winning off of us. So for us to go and celebrate with our oppressor, with the slave master, and their families shows how ignorant we still are to this day, and that we really don't want to wake up. Some of us, not all of us, but for us to celebrate with them is foolish. It's more honorable for a white person to celebrate Juneteenth than it is for us to celebrate the 4th of July, because at least they standing with black folks to say that they was against enslaving us and they was against the injustice against us. For us to celebrate with them stands for nothing, because we were still enslaved. It stands for nothing. This day means nothing to us. The 4th of July means nothing to me at all, because I know the truth. And for us to celebrate is just proof that we still don't want to know the truth, or that we just ignore it and go with the flow, still lost in the sauce.
But anyway, jumping back to 1776, the Revolutionary War, the American Revolutionary War, is it the Revolutionary or American Revolutionary? Either way, when they were fighting against the British to get freedom in 1776, historians estimate that roughly 5,000 to 10,000 black people fought for the patriot cause against the British. And the British, who didn't grant black people citizenships until, I want to say, the 1900s, had 20,000 African Americans fight for them. So since black Americans have been in every major war and conflict in the United States since the birth of the United States, black history, American history are intertwined. Black people are a part of American history. And there are legendary stories about black men in their service in the Revolutionary War. Like Jasmine Crockett Jasmine Crockett said that 4th of July we should recognize the works of black women.
George Cook at African American Reports. On this 4th of July weekend, in which we're celebrating America's 250th birthday, Representative Jasmine Crockett of Texas has taken the time to remind us that we should praise and respect black women for the contributions that they have made to this country. Check this out.
When it comes to answering the question of what America owes black women, the answer is everything. When we think about the sacrifices that black women have made from the moment that we were stolen from our homelands and transported into this country, to the fact that black women continue to stand as the backbone specifically of the Democratic Party, we know that black women are always the ones that are doing the labor, but we are also the ones that are always the first targets of any harm. So this 4th of July, I say celebrate a black woman that you know, because whether it's an invention that she made or whether it's the very democracy that still hangs by a thread right now, there is a black woman to thank for her contributions.
And if you have any problems with her message, you can go kick rocks and read between the lines. All she's asking you to do is to respect and praise black women. She's not disrespecting or being nasty to anyone else. So thank you for that message, Representative Jasmine Crockett. All right, y'all, goodbye and God bless.
I completely disagree. I think the 4th of July should not only be a celebration of our independence from Britain, but also celebrating the black men that fought with such bravery to help free us from the British monarchy. History classes in schools, especially in America, they're pretty bad at telling us about, you know, stories outside, especially black history or American history that involves black people outside of Martin Luther King, Frederick Douglass, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Malcolm X and Harriet Tubman. It's like those are the only ones we learn about over and over again. Peter Salem was considered a hero at the Battle of Bunker Hill, which was a pivotal battle in the American Revolutionary War. And he fought alongside about a dozen of other freed black men during that battle, whose names include Philip Abbott, Barzillai Lew, Salem Poor, Titus Coburn, Alexander Ames, Cato Howe, and Seymour Byrne. And Peter Salem re-enlisted for another year on January 1st, 1776. and then signed up again for another 3 years. He was honorably discharged in 1779 after serving a total of 4 years and 8 months. Peter Salem fought at the battles of Saratoga and Stony Point. He's an American hero, a black man that fought in the Revolutionary War and fatally wounded somebody from the other side with a musket shot. Why would I not celebrate the history of a black man who played a pivotal role in helping America win its freedom and independence from Britain? Like, why would I not celebrate that? I don't know. One of those men that I had named was Salem Poor. He was an enslaved black man who purchased his freedom in 1769. This is before 1776. And he became a soldier in 1775. He was involved, like I said, in the American Revolutionary War and at the Battle of Bunker Hill with Peter Salem. Salem Poor is also remembered for his actions at the Battle of Bunker Hill on June 17, 1775, where he is credited for mortally wounding a British Lieutenant Colonel, James Abercrombie. Salem Poor's valor and gallantry at the Battle of Bunker Hill prompted 14 officers, including a Colonel William Prescott and Colonel Jonathan Brewer, to cite him for heroism and petition to the General Court of Massachusetts the following statement: "The reward due to so great and distinguished a character, the subscribers beg leave to report to your honorable house, which we do in justice to the character of so brave a man, that under our own observation, we declare that a Negro man called Salem Poor of Colonel Fry's regiment, Captain Ames' company, in the late Battle of Charleston, behaved like an experienced officer, as well as an excellent soldier. To set forth particulars of his conduct would be tedious. We would only beg to leave to say, in the person of this Negro centers a brave and gallant soldier." Why would I not celebrate the efforts of all the men that sacrificed their lives to make sure that we were not under British control anymore, but especially for all the black ones? Black people fought and died for our right to celebrate the 4th of July, to be a free country. I don't understand when people talk about how we shouldn't celebrate it. Like, there's so much to be grateful for and so much to celebrate, and by and large due to these black men. And another bias that I have, and I feel like, this is me post recording my original video, but I feel like I should have also added that I am a conservative Christian, and as a Christian, I am training my mind to focus on things that are good, as the Bible tells us to. And the more that I practice that, the more I see and realize how many people focus their minds on everything that's wrong and bad. And I just don't align with people like that. And I think there's something good to celebrate about the 4th of July, given the history of this country. Black history is American history, and I will celebrate everything historic that comes with this country. Free Black Americans served on both land and sea during the Revolution, often fulfilling vital roles in integrated infantry units as scouts and as navigators. The 1st Rhode Island Regiment in 1778 was formed with a significant number of black soldiers, eventually helping secure the British surrender at the Siege of Yorktown in 1781. Black Americans also delivered critical intelligence that allowed French and Patriot commanders to prepare for the climactic battle at Yorktown. In Spanish Louisiana, Black militiamen led by Captain Simon Calfa swore to defend the frontier to protect the Patriot aligned forces. Black Americans are intertwined and ingrained in the history and the American Revolutionary War that allows us to celebrate July 4th, 1776. While there are things that are imperfect, I don't believe that disqualifies us celebrating a whole holiday and making it some white national holiday. It is an American holiday, And Black Americans are Americans. We are a major part of the reason why America is America. Black culture has been intertwined into American culture for forever. Black people have served in every major battle and war since America became America. And that is something to celebrate to me. So yeah, the United States is not perfect. And were there enslaved people in 1776? Were Black people not considered citizens in 1776? Yes, that's all true. But two things can be true at once. There were freed people in 1776, and Black people willingly and gladly served our country for the freedom to be rid of British rule. And that to me is something Black people, especially Black Americans that do not trace their heritage outside of this country, should be celebrating every 4th of July. Now I know this 4th of July is already gone, but hopefully it'll encourage somebody to actually take pride in 4th of July next year, no matter who the president is, because it doesn't change history and it doesn't change the facts of this country was founded and fought for also with Black people. And I'm going to leave you guys with this. A French general wrote in July 1781 regarding the men in the army for the Revolutionary War. I had a chance to see the American army, man for man. It was really painful to see these brave men almost naked, with only some trousers and little linen jackets, most of them without stockings, but would you believe it, very cheerful and healthy in appearance. He added, "It is incredible that soldiers composed of men of every age, even children of 15, of whites and blacks, unpaid and rather poorly fed, can march so well and withstand fire so steadfastly." And if anything, if you don't get anything from what I'm talking about today, I think as Black Americans, we should have some sort of pride in our country because we are part of the foundation of this country. And we have been since the beginning of its birth. And we help fight for its freedom. You know, I just don't like the division that a lot of people seem to want to cause in our country when this is just as much our country as it is our fellow white Americans, Native Americans, and every other American that's here. But for the American that cannot trace their history past the United States, I think it's a great idea to celebrate all the good things that came out of our history and not focus so much on everything bad, because that's all we hear all the time. All we hear is about the negative things that America has in its history and that it has offered. But if America was so terrible, we wouldn't have as many people as we have trying to get into this country. The majority of us, especially Black Americans, aren't going anywhere. So I think it's time that we take pride and honor in our history. We accept the good with the bad. We weigh the pros with the cons, and we celebrate all the great things that's happened in our history. And seeing the bravery of Black men fighting side by side with white people, Native American people for our freedoms, I think it's ridiculous to say that we shouldn't celebrate that, because we should. But anyway, I'm Alante, and that's just my opinion. What's yours? I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.